Hi, everybody. Moments before it started, Sully made a gorilla sound directly into the microphone.
Oh my God.
Return to Monkey.
This doesn't get cut out either. This is just the whole episode. There's no like cold open like we normally do. Hey everyone, welcome to
Wait.
yeah, there's no cold open. This is just the episode.
Secrets between the apes.
Listen.
Yeah, welcome to our little Q&A special. Kind of just a post-show reminiscing, feeling the vibes. It doesn't have a name. It's just the secret special, I guess.
Secrets between the stars.
I wanted to be
Stars
like
between the secrets.
Oh, that's actually good.
secrets
That would be if
of,
we had guest stars, right?
Yes.
secrets of secrets between the stars behind the scenes. So it's SS, BTS, BTS.
The show, the movie, the musical
Director's cut.
on
How were you
ice.
able to say that acronym on the first
musical,
try,
the
off the
series.
fly like that?
Because someone in the chat, someone put SBTS and like, what's behind the scenes? And I was like, oh wait, that's the acronym.
We are.
No, dude, it's the Korean band.
It had nothing to do with us.
Yeah.
Super BTS. They're even more powerful.
Super BTS.
That's the sequel.
They gain power from the yellow sun.
Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Start crying.
So this is yeah, we just wanted to kind of hang out, talk a little bit. Get if anyone has questions in chat, ask them and stuff, and we'll answer. But before I want to ask first, just the simple one. When you guys were making your characters, what were some of your inspirations? Whether it be other characters in media or like ideas that you wanted to kind of expand on, a
Mine.
thesis.
Sorry.
Go ahead.
For mine, as soon as I saw the like player's handbook art for the Raxolite, I was just in love with that design because it's just this little bitty plant person with big eyes, and so I thought it was hilarious to play one of those in a campaign where we're, you know, morally gray and doing black ops stuff. And from there, the southern accent kind of evolved because I was trying to find a good plant name. And as soon as I found Clementine, I was like, this is perfect. And I just made her a little southern gal. And from there, the character evolved with the southern sass. So it was just very organic in how that happened. So
I feel like there's a lot of like movies or TV show, or mostly like TV shows that kind of have like the kind of like dark, kind of like emo-ish character. The one that really like, even kind of evident from my name, that like stuck out most was it's a like Violet from what's it?
From The Incredibles?
No, isn't it? Is it Violet in
From The Incredibles.
I might be getting the wrong name. What's the?
I don't know.
Teen Titans.
Oh.
Raven.
yeah.
Yeah. I see that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like less, but I'm horrible with names. Forgetting the lab tech girl from
From NCIS.
yes.
Oh, Abby. What?
Same name as my dog.
Yeah.
I've watched like 4 episodes of NCIS, and she is the only person that could ever tell you anything about that show.
I powered through all of it over COVID, or at least up until what was available on Netflix.
The actress that plays her actually came out as asexual a while back, and I thought that was really cool because my sister's ace, and so I'm like, yes, more representation. So yeah,
Asexual queen.
yeah, 100%.
Sully?
With Chip, the thing that I knew off the bat that I wanted to do was to play a robot. As soon as Corey mentioned that he was thinking about doing sci-fi at all, I wanted to be a robot. And then the thing that I really wanted to play with was kind of this like what it means to be human, man versus robot. And I thought that a really sweet way to do that would be through like one of my favorite tropes is the this like robot with the little crush and stuff. And that was one of the first requests that I had for Chip because I thought that would be really very sweet and like heartwarming way to kind of motivate that sort of like, I guess sort of existential self-discovery, but like celebration of like, you know, like love being one of the big things that makes you human, right? Like is the compassion that you have amongst the team and kind of using that to drive forward. Like, you know, his discovery of his feelings for Pepper, obviously, but also just like his discovering of like feeling and like how powerful that is and how much it actually means versus this kind of analytical way of being, I thought would be super interesting.
Yeah, with Chip specifically, because it's a common sci-fi trope of like robot discovering emotion. But I think the interesting thing with Chip was doing it through the lens of, like you said, like a crush. So, because I think otherwise, if it's just a robot just discovering emotions, we've seen it like 1,000 times, in 1,000 different ways. And Wall-E wins, but I think, yeah, when you presented the character, I was excited for that immediately, for that aspect of it, because it being a different way of approaching the subject. So, yeah, I like Chip. I like all the characters. Chip was the one I had immediate thought for. So, and Gary,
I saw the Solarian class and I was like, I get to hit things with a sword made of energy. Yeah, that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
Having a character so shrouded in mystery, like when we were doing the promotion for the show or before it came out, having like, you know, the little like character bio videos and then getting to, it's like, oh, species redacted. And it's like, oh, what's up with that? And I thought that was really interesting. As far as having, we met her in a flashback, maybe, but meeting her in the final episode of the season, Astra. So having the idea of the twins, because normal Solarians, as far as like the class just rules as written, like you get both kind of like the sun stuff and black hole gravity stuff. But I thought it'd be cool to kind of have the break off from that dichotomy and have one character kind of be a yin and yang. And I want to say there's a very specific inspiration for the two characters, but I feel like that would be a massive spoiler.
Yeah, but you know, if it spoils, don't share it.
Yeah. But yeah, Aster, it's been a lot of fun to play.
Yeah, so specifically, because this was, I said it in the first episode, this was our first time playing Starfinder. This is the first time for any of us to play Starfinder. What did your guys's, because I think we all came from D&D. So what was your takes with it for comparing Starfinder to D&D? What was your kind of outlook for that?
I mean, when it comes to like piezo properties, from what I've seen and experienced in, you know, Pathfinder and Starfinder, like the increased math that you have to do was very daunting at first. But I really liked how the Envoy class is like a blend of rogue and bard, and you know, the different abilities that I have that are like the just on point bard things, like so discontent, just dissing people and making them like nervous and unsure, and taunting in ship combat. Doing the taunts is so fun. I get to be the sassiest, like most passive aggressive, rude person.
And the way you played Clementine, how that works so well too, with even in combat you like the captain ability has that ability on its own, and then your Envoy having it too, just played so well together.
I think Riley, out of all of us, had like, as soon as we were talking character creation and we did like a little test scenario, Riley was the most in tune with her character and I was like, oh yeah, this is it. Okay, cool. So
Clementine just sprang out of the voice that I gave her, like for real. Just doing the voice brought so much of the personality out. Like I was unsure about what kind of character she was gonna be. I spoke in the Southern accent and started using the sass, and I'm like, she's here.
This is her.
Among us.
Not to pivot too hard, we'll come back to this in a second. Someone in chat did ask what was everyone's favorite NPC, and then someone also did follow up with yes, which Joro.
Finbar.
That's a two-part question.
We already established who the best Joro was, and it was Finbar.
Yes. What was everyone's favorite NPC?
That's so hard.
Susie's definitely up there because I feel
Susie.
so sad about her, and
That's
she's
so
also
funny.
adorable and just tries so hard. Shrimps. Shrimp
Shrimp.
is my favorite.
His
I need to know
only
that he's okay.
interaction was just from the distance, and that was it.
He's like the Starfinder, Secrets Between the Stars, Boba Fett. Just mysterious.
What a comparison.
He also got thrown down a pit with a giant worm.
Oh my
in it.
God.
We just haven't experienced it yet.
Oh, that's so funny. I don't feel like I can say Pepper. I'm gonna say that I can't say Pepper.
You can say
Because
Pepper.
No, I have a
That's
strong
fine.
bias. She's really cool. She's really cool. But I'm gonna search for one that I'm not.
Yeah, I, mean,
I'm not
I could say
actively pursuing.
Astra, but I'm trying to think of something else.
Astra's really cool.
A big one for me is actually, and he's not here right now, but Gizmo's parents.
Yeah.
Are so
Brain crank.
freaking cute. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
It just like, I light up whenever we do a scene with them. But another
so
big one,
great.
yes. Another big one for me, not because I particularly like him, but because I loved the episode and the entire thing surrounding him. But
Royce Flynn.
yes.
I was really gonna
Yes.
say, yeah.
Oh my god.
Roy, like as soon as Royce came onto the scene, the way that you were acting him, everything just fell into line so well. And it's like, I get this guy's vibe immediately.
You understand him and you hate him the moment he opened his mouth and just kind of existed.
Yeah.
In a similar vein, Barthen is also a great NPC
Yeah.
because you don't really like him,
Rest
but
in
your
peace.
characterization of him was so like full and developed. It was great.
He was the thing I needed for you to understand that you're gonna be working with not good people, but they're fun.
Yep.
They're fun.
Rest in peace,
Rest
my
in
guy.
Yeah, rest in peace. I was talking to Sully about this after the show where I was like, man, his full name was Barthen Praytell.
It's a kickin' last name.
Great name. He's dead. He's not gonna be coming up much
But
anymore.
what about his son, Barthen Praytell Jr.?
Barthon?
Barty!
He was the
Party.
clone number 7. Right?
Oh my god.
Oh my gosh.
What about you, Marcus? Any NPCs that?
Outside of the ones we've already said, I mean, I like Susie, and I'm trying to remember, like, if I was to be like in character, I don't think I met many of the other Joros, but for a very minor NPC, the old woman on the slot machine.
Unnamed woman, yeah. She inspiring the entire
my
craps and
God.
plots.
The amount of
That
story
was so good.
That entire like improvised B plot was so funny. Which is just a testament to Kevin for coming up to that. Yeah, you said it a minute ago, and I think someone said it in chat, but he's got a cold right
sickly.
now, so he couldn't make it, which sucks.
Moment of silence.
May he
our
rest in
boy.
peace.
As
Look
far,
what they done to him.
This place.
Look what they've done to my boy.
My son.
as far as Joros go, because that is a separate question. It has to be. It's just such a short bit, but Foreman Joro. And I was like, is there a Foreman Joro here? We were going to the raw materials, and you're just going, nuh-uh.
Oh my god.
I think Forklift Joro was my favorite, just
Joro.
because he
The
was. You
legend.
never met him, but he
Yeah.
was just
Yeah,
a
yeah.
legend that's caused so much destruction.
He's the pillar of Joro society.
Froyo manager Joro. Just like, not on my ship. Like, I'm like, dang. Oh my god. Oh, yeah.
If Valia didn't get to meet many of the
I
Joros in
watched the
general.
episode, but I can't remember many of them right now.
It was Froyo manager. There
The
was
art one.
Architect Joro, the first one you met. The flower one that came in after.
There's an artsy one with the thick Russian accent.
No, they
That was
weren't.
one
So
of the
they
other
weren't
clones.
Joros. The Finbar wasn't a Joro. The Russian one.
But
hang on,
Finbar was the best Joro. So
I have their names.
I don't know what you're on right now. Okay.
There was at the Metalworks you met Shabhad. She was the larger. She was like the heavier accent, but not Russian one. Oh no, I'm sorry, Relton. Shabhad was the race. There's them. The Russian one was what was her name here?
It was not.
She was a Minotaur woman.
Petunia. I have it in my notes. Hey, hold on.
I don't have it in my notes, and I wrote the things. That says a lot about me. Yeah, she was the large Minotaur woman. She wasn't a Joro.
Joro Jr.
Joro Jr. Yeah. Okay, he counts.
Oh,
He counts.
Even first Joro.
Annalise.
Annalise, yes, Annalise. Finbar. I don't think I sent it, so I don't think we have the actual art. But for some reason, in the actual game module, thank you. He was the only one that got art besides Joro. And
That's because he's a Chad.
and I added him in more. Like he was just there to do a flip and then he would leave. But I was like, no, this is a fun little Sonic the Hedgehog guy. Like like I want him in here.
We love this orange flippy man.
Like of course,
Love this orange flippy man.
this one guy that just does a bunch of backflips. I know my players are gonna love this guy. It was written in that his entrance was he just zip lines in. Like yeah, this guy with attitude. Yeah. So the Joro section was fun. And I liked getting able to do a little Russian accent for a little bit. She didn't do too much, unfortunately, just because of how it played out.
She was so
but
precious.
She is precious.
a Minotaur woman with a thick accent that loves painting. Just, you can't deny her.
She was darling.
Yeah.
So what was everyone's highlight from the series, the first season here? What was everyone's highlight? Stick out moments.
That's really tough.
Like personal highlight or just highlight in general?
All of it.
Okay.
You do it all.
All of Chip's shenanigans are definitely way up there, including the "this is my wife," and then the "we're having a baby." I found that really funny because Raxalites they don't like get pregnant. They
This one
switch from
did.
flower into seeding, and so. Me having a flower on my head, it's like if they knew anything about Raxalites,
That's
they would
so
know I'm very
funny.
clearly not having a baby.
All that guy knew about was the
funny.
cross. So you're good. You're good.
And the donor being the guy who could grow his ears. Like the perfect callback to that.
Oh my gosh.
funny.
That scene. I mean, that was really like that whole second half of, is that episode 3, right?
That's
Episode 4?
Yeah. 'Cause the first train.
Was so fun because I had the idea to like come over and be the windbag? Was that
the windbag with the official title? Yeah.
But it was so fun. You can't just say like wild crap like that and expect anybody to be able to like follow up and yes and that. And Riley did a great job of that. That was a very fun episode to like partner up on. Where it was like,
It was so
because I was not making it easier. I was with anything.
all the shenanigans in the casino episode were so much fun. Like
Oh,
all
yeah.
the stuff that Kevin came up with, the ads, the slots and crap, them being lawyers.
Yes, that is easily my favorite episode.
I think both train episodes are tied for my favorite. Because the next one was just this like nonstop combat, and that you guys came
That
up
was
with
a fun
some
one.
creative, fun stuff on how to get out of these situations. Is super fun.
Yeah, the train combat in episode 5 was my personal favorite combat scenario. Just because, I mean, we went from giant eel in train cart to train cart open helicopter, people dropping down. Like there was so much going on, and it was just action packed. And then
And
of
you got to
course,
fly.
I did get to fly.
And
Yeah,
explode.
that was also my favorite combat. Just because I was like, man, this Astra's a beast.
Whenever somebody would say like, like in reference to going supernova, like phrasing it as exploding, it always reminded me of this one line from Galaxy Quest where they tried teleporting this like pig thing, and when it came up on the ship, it was inside out, and then it burst, and they were relaying that to Tim Allen's character, and he was like, it was inside out and it exploded, because he's trying to like get back up on the ship, and he's like, don't teleport me, don't do it. So like that just pops in my head. My family and I quote it so much. So I instead of Tim Allen's actual voice, it's my dad's voice saying it.
Shout out to Matt.
Shout out to Matt.
Also, talking about the combat in the train storyline, just those moments where Valia is hidden and then like speaking from the shadows. Like,
Oh
so
my gosh.
You like you taking it easy at one point. You're like, I got this eel down. And you're like daydreaming about the next thing you're gonna do.
Oh my god.
Like both of the train episodes were so great. I feel like the second one with the combat was a lot of action packed. But the shenanigans of the casino scene were so great. So I'll admit I feel like I was a little weak on that just because I was basically just like, I'm gonna sit here and
No, one of my favorite
wait,
parts was when he he reached for the thing in the guy's pocket and he just like
slapping his hand
touched it. Like,
Yeah, just lightly fucking you.
It's still one of my favorite like visuals from those.
and then tapping the target to like get him to kind of shuffle away from Roy.
Oh, the first signs is the you feel,
Oh my god.
oh gosh.
And Asker coming up out also and just being like, you're Lori, right? And just
Oh my
dropping
Yeah.
like the title there.
I love that so much because it's just so bold and like when you did that, I was just like, because I was like, is Royce gonna try and like take us down with him in like outing us as well? And you know, he didn't.
I figured since he didn't.
He didn't initially.
He fully, like, when you met up with him and we realized, like, oh, you guys have history, he was like, Clementine. You're like, oh, I'm not Clementine. I'm her sister so-and-so. And he was like, ah, yes. So I'm like, okay, maybe this will work. We'll just go for it.
That actually reminds me, like we were all kind of there in the like working together in the early stages of like developing our characters, but I wanted to ask like everybody if there was a different name that you started wanting to go with for your character and then changed it to the one that you have, because I know in my case Iris, which is the name that I used for the alias in that scene, was Clementine's original name, and so I thought that was just kind of funny for me at least. So yeah.
I didn't have another name that I was like considering. I just had the name that I like started with from inspiration, which was just some fantasy name generator website.
God bless those websites.
We've all been there.
It was something similar to Valia, but it was like a different first character, something like Salia or something, and then just with, because the Kyle character race is kind of like shadowy, I just kind of went from that and then was thinking like Dahlia and obviously Violet from my last answer there, and that's just kind of how I
From Incredibles.
I haven't watched. Oh wait, yes, okay.
Yes.
We got there. There we go. Yeah.
From The Incredibles.
For some reason, when he said The Incredibles, I kept on thinking like Fantastic Four or like Marvel. Or something. I'm like, oh, just now I'm like, oh right, those
That's
Incredibles.
so
Okay,
funny.
got it. Yeah, that is what I was thinking. Okay, yeah.
Funnily enough, I don't think I ever told Kevin this, but one of my initial names for Chip was Gizmo.
Oh, that's so funny.
Because that's something that I just like to name things, pets, anything in like any adventure. I like that name always, all the time. And I did actually think about Gizmo for Chip's name.
It's funny.
Yeah.
He because it was I think in that session 0 we did that we decided that Gizmo would be the one to name Chip.
Yeah.
Which I loved that, and you guys came up with that too. I loved that connection of it being Chip's birthday and getting a name in the same day. I was super happy that happened.
Yeah. And you know, I was there to help you out, Gary, with naming your character.
It always takes so long for me to name characters. That's like the very last thing for me.
We
But
went through so many lists of like names related to space and stars and stuff, and I remember like suggesting Orion and other constellation related ones, and you were just kind of like no. But then you found Aster, and you were just like, maybe. You looked more, and then you went, oh yeah, Aster, yeah.
Yeah, I was very focused on the twin aspect. So having Astra, I was like, this feels right. This makes sense. So yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't have a player, obviously, but but the name I did have the most issues with was Pepper, because I wanted a name that sounded good with Chip, and for a while I thought Poppy was her name, like both the flower and because like a computer, if it messes up, it pops. So I was like, oh, that's cute. And then it was the day before episode 1. I was talking with my coworker for some reason about baseball, and it was the player of the Red Sox. His name was Big Poppy, and then I realized her name sounds like Daddy in Spanish. So I was like, I'm gonna go ahead and change that really quick. So then it became, because I think you came up with the name.
When I had initially come up with the idea of her, I didn't want to create her. I didn't want to know anything about who she was or who she was going to be in the campaign. I just wanted like somebody to be there. But like the name that had always been in my head was Pepper. I have no idea why, but
it's a good name. It works. It's futury. It works.
And now the way that the name aligns with Chip is salt and pepper chips.
Yes. I didn't think about that. That's good. Someone did also ask the dungeon speedrun. What do y'all think of the ship combat mechanics?
It takes some getting used to. Like, I mean, it's weird for me to say that, given that I have the easiest role in ship combat. I just sass the other side and then tell people what to do, and hopefully boost their abilities. But like seeing what everybody else has to deal with, it overwhelms me so much.
Yeah,
So.
it's definitely Marcus.
yeah, the weight is on Marcus for sure. The rest of us we roll our little dice.
I roll 1d20 and my turn.
We either do good or bad, and Marcus sets everything up.
I like it. I feel like the sad thing was that in the last episode was the first time that a lot of the other pilot moves really felt like they would be applicable. So in our other test runs,
we did like 4.
In my living room,
and a lot
on
of
the
them it still
TV,
kind of felt
crying,
like I
screaming.
was basically just like, okay, I'm just gonna do a regular move or just evade to get the extra AC. And the other like stunt moves didn't really feel too applicable. In this last one, it did actually feel like it would have been useful, but we died pretty fast.
You guys hung in there for a while. It was just that because that ship had a turret on it that could fire, and that did a pretty good chunk of damage. And it was that forward ship that had it was something like 3d4 times 10 damage. It was like an insane amount.
And I feel like if we were to do one where it was like fighting multiple enemies, you might see them more as well. Because it was hard for me to imagine when you would use things like flyby to like fly through a ship or like, or close to it, rather than just be a little bit further away and I'll still shoot. So I think there was still a lot of like scenarios where we could have, or not like we could have, but just there were a lot more scenarios where I feel like we could have. It's possible to do more than I've had the chance to do. And then outside of that, just how I feel about the ship combat in general is, I think it's fun. The one thing I felt like I was missing would be some opportunity for growth is the wrong word, but customization. Like I kind of I missed the ability to, like picking feats or something for your character, where I wish I could have like picked something special. And it feels just a little bit lacking only having this fixed set of options you have. Besides just like the ship customization, you can pick weapons or stuff, but I still kind of felt like it would have been cool if there were things you could pick.
Yeah,
customize more.
With ship combat, that's definitely on that point. It is definitely that's the crunchy part of the game. Kind of backtracking before I get back to the point. But the back is I've been saying Starfinder is a great way to transition out of D&D. because the base mechanics of it are pretty similar and kind of similar paced. And then if you want to transition to Pathfinder, where there's more crunch, the ship combat is where that comes into, because there's a lot more mechanics and technical aspects of it. But I am also, because I agree with you, I think like that it can feel restricting at times with ship combat. So I'm interested to see, because the day after the finale, they announced that they're releasing like a huge update to Starfinder. And they've said it's going to include both normal combat and starship combat updates. So I'm super curious to see what they do in there.
That is actually a good point. Going back to the question from a little while ago of like how we felt between D&D and Starfinder was, I haven't played Pathfinder. I set up a character for a one shot that I was unfortunately not able to come into. And so, I mean, I built that character and, you know, got all my paperwork and stuff ready for it. But playing Starfinder really felt like that middle ground between D&D and Pathfinder, where it introduced you to a lot of the Pathfinder concepts, but without all of the Pathfinder. Because it felt like there was still even more that you would get into in Pathfinder. But this felt like a nice balance of kind of like friendly D&D, but also with the level of detail that I like from Pathfinder, because sometimes D&D, even with the full character like player handbook, I felt like I was left with questions. Like, I don't remember any examples right now, but kind of like having modifiers, and you're like, I still don't understand what that means, and I can't find it in the handbook. But Starfinder was really good about like, you have to look through the index, but you can usually find pretty good descriptions of everything, and it kind of makes a lot more sense.
One thing, sorry.
No, go ahead.
One thing that I really liked looking at how the Starfinder rules and everything are written is whenever it refers to the player, it refers to the player with feminine pronouns. And I thought that was like really interesting and cool, because like everything else would do like he, maybe they, but like to read her, she, all that stuff, I'm just like, huh. That's so cool.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a really interesting touch.
Yeah, I thought that because sci-fi is a very male-dominated, specifically both sci-fi and tabletop games in general are both very male-dominated. So I was like, it's fun. they made the fictional protagonist her.
Yeah.
This one's for us.
What did you guys think of the starship combat? Because you kind of said it. You have like a D20 you rolled, and that's it.
Yeah,
you do a lot of
gunner,
math.
the gunner checks. That was just pretty straightforward. Just like see if you hit with one of the guns, roll damage, and we have our tablets to roll all those high amounts of dice. Depends on if you roll well. Sometimes I do not roll well, but I think the starship combat overall, once you kind of like doing all of the practice runs that we did was, I mean, really beneficial. Obviously for the sake of making a show and producing it, but just kind of getting a handle of it. I think once we were really in it, like we all knew what we could do, and we all knew knowing what we could do helped us in the moment for when it's like, okay, what do we need to do right now? You know, if Marcus is doing a flyby, it's like, okay, Marcus is positioned just here. What's the best move for? I mean, I think engineering and science officer can be some of the most influential things, because you know they were setting gunners up to
Kevin passing the pencil back and forth, updating the graph.
It is crazy, but I think it's really cool. I'd imagine trying to come up with a cohesive system for get in this spaceship, fight the other spaceship. The fact that there is this much detail shows that they, you know, the developers and designers put so much thought into that system. And it really depends on the players and the DM or GM to dive into it and utilize it. I'm a big fan of the rule of cool, so sometimes if a player has a description of something or something they want to do, and it's like, is that possible? Maybe. Is that rules as written? Really? Is it cool though?
Oh, yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Yo, is that sick? Yeah, I'm gonna do it.
The one thing I really can't imagine with their combat is the playing with the bigger ships. Because they have the mechanics to get up into very large ships with a lot of crew. And I can't imagine trying to play with that many. Like, either you're playing as multiple characters or you've got like a big table together. And at that point, it seems like it would kind of become monotonous to, like, you know, if you were like trying to role play like a big destroyer of sorts, and at that point it almost feels like you're doing like a role playing of like an office job.
Yeah, well, the way that, because there's the rules are in there for how to do that, and I also have, this is the starship you guys fought. This thing had a crew, I think I only said like 11 on there.
You said 11.
But I just kind of nerfed it so that you didn't have to get too stressed when you heard some of this stuff. There was like 30 people on that ship, and they could have been consistent. And this is tips for GMs, for general GM, if you're trying to kind of make it a little more fast paced. Because as the GM, I had to learn all of your stuff. And that's very overwhelming to do. And as the crew, they could have been constantly doing these things to keep up the pace. So there's rules in the actual book of if you can hire crew and you can have them go and do stuff. So you could have somebody replace like an engineer and be the ones that like have like a team that's just constantly working on that stuff, and then Kevin could go be another gunner if you needed to, or a science officer or something like that. So there's ways to make it, that also adds more to the captain's role of they can command the crew to go do stuff instead of it being you guys boosts. So it adds a little more like crunch to the game, but it's not quite like overwhelming. You don't need like an Excel sheet open and be like, all right, our stocks are down. Like, stocks and our shields are way down. They're plummeting. It's a bear market out there. Like, you don't need to do that.
Yeah.
I feel like sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I feel like if you wanted to play with a larger one, and I'm just kind of making stuff up right now, that like a mechanic of kind of like the take 10 and take 20 might be good to role play larger ones, where if you're just like, well, I've got people like our NPCs, for lack of a better word, manning the shields, then instead of constantly rolling for whether or not they replay it, then you could just like take an average of what you think they would probably make over all these turns. So, you know, if normally you would continue to restore 7 shields, then you just kind of assume, well, we probably got 5 again, sure, and it's that way you don't have to roll for all of these additional crew that might keep happening. I don't know if that would be feasible or if it would make sense, but I feel like you would need that if you were playing a lot of crew.
Yeah, I think it also depends on, because we were learning it for a show. If we were playing it at home, this would be a totally different thing, because then like we would probably get a lot crunchier with the stuff. But yeah, the Starship, this is, because I think there's been systems that have done stuff like that before, and it just adds. It would depend. It depends on the systems. Is all. The crux of what I'm going to say is it depends on the system. Because I've played some other sci-fi mechanics, and their starship combat is really not good compared to Starfinder. Starfinder has, and I'll die on this hill, has the best starship combat for this kind of stuff.
That's a good endorsement. Throw it on the list.
Put it on the box. Corey Roof will die for this.
The best starship combat.
Make it super. Corey Roof will die in caps and then very tiny for this on the box. So for a science officer, what were your thoughts?
I just in general, I am a known lover of very complicated board games. So I really liked Starship Combat, but particularly one because it was like, I thought it was really cool that like everybody had a position that kind of felt it felt more immersive, where it felt like I was actually like doing something on a ship versus just like it felt removed from combat in that way. But I really liked that it was very collaborative. The whole game's collaborative, right? It's collaborative storytelling. It's improvised collaborative storytelling. And in combat, we're always all on the same team. But it felt more collaborative in that it was like, okay, so if I do this buff and Clementine also does this buff, and then Kevin does the shield so that I can do this, then we can all give it to Gary.
Who then gets a +3.
Yeah. like stuff like that. I liked the really like team playing aspect of it. That's really fun to me.
Yeah, especially with the ship modifiers. I think we only did it use once or twice on the episode, but their computer system, when you're building the ship, there's like ranks of the computers and they give you modifiers. So like the ones we had were at the beginning of each round, they would refresh and you could get 3+2s that anyone could pull from at any point. So I think that adds the collaboration of somebody would be like, oh, I failed it, and then one of you would be like, did you use a +2? Like, hey, you've got a +2. Don't forget. That adds into like being able to help each other in your own phases, and it not be metagamey, you know? It makes sense.
It added to the tension where it's like especially like me and Kevin over. I forgot a pencil for the starship combat, and so but even so, like me and Kevin are over here like updating all the stuff or whatever, and all the shield stuff, and like everybody has their heads down on their papers, like trying to like scramble and put stuff together. That makes me feel like I'm in the action where it's like, okay, I gotta like set this up, so then okay, well if I do this math and then Gary can do his thing, and then like it's that's immersive to me.
Yeah.
I'm sweating on a chip.
One of my original ideas was, I still want to do it somehow. I don't know how I would do it, because believe it or not, this was inspired by Cowboy Bebop a little bit. What I wanted to do was I wanted the Verity to be your guys' home base, but then you guys would have your own ships that you could go out on and do stuff with. So I thought, I'm determined to figure out how to make this work somehow. But I thought it'd be fun that if in ship combat you guys all had your own ships that you could pilot. But you could also have joint ships, so it could be like Chip could be like an R2D2 type of that he would hop into to Aster's ship to help with like some of the more specific piloting roles or whatever he needed to for that kind of stuff. I think that I want to figure out how to do that properly, but I don't know. We'll figure that out. That's a season 2 issue. That's a different season issue.
I now need to draw Chip as like an R2D2 in a ship with Aster piloting. Just Chip being like, fun fact, they're attacking us. Like,
Aster freaking out.
What do I do? We did. Somebody, our guy behind the screen here, Devin, put on screen. You guys, I'm telling you guys because you can't see. He put text above me that says Corey Roof will die. So
one of these days
you'll try. They haven't gotten me yet. Another question from chat from Zacharias01. What's everyone's favorite sci-fi story? Either movie, novel, show, speculative poetry, like whichever.
For me, it's tied between Star Trek Next Generation, because I love that series, and Firefly. And like, I really felt the parallels to Firefly when we were building all our characters, because Chip being like quirky and more childlike even is like River, because, you know, with all that she's been through, she is very childlike. And then I took on the role of Mal, being captain and also kind of being the face, you know? And then like Gary, you took on the role of Jane, being the big buff guy.
I hit things.
Yeah. And you took on kind of what's her name? I think her name is Zoe. Anyways, the second in command role in that. When Chip made the like knitted the beanies and stuff, my sister was like, oh my gosh, they got beanies like Jane did in Firefly. And so like I thought that was just really fun, and I love the parallels. It's just so enjoyable. So
That's funny, and I'll segue into my stuff here too. Because you've mentioned the Firefly stuff before. I've never seen Firefly. It's like really I know it's like pinnacle sci-fi stuff. I've never seen an episode.
It's so fun. And unfortunately, it was canceled really early, so you don't have a whole lot to catch up
Yeah,
on.
I know there's that, and then the Serenity movie, and that's all you got. But my inspirations, or these are both my inspirations and my favorite things. Was Cowboy Bebop was the obvious one, which I think is so funny that people like pointed out. I'll explain in a second. My other favorite was the Cyberpunk Edgerunners anime. That was a huge inspiration for this series. Specifically, the idea of being good people doing bad things. I like that a lot. The book I just read, I started reading it while we were doing the show, and I changed some aspects of stuff to kind of because I liked ideas from it, but or inspired by it. I'm not stealing, I swear. It's a book. It's this book that like there's no presence of it at all online. I was amazed. It's called Santiago, A Myth of the Far Future, and it's like a sci-fi western and it does this thing really well that I love about it, which is it's about these people looking for the most wanted man in the galaxy named Santiago, and he has the biggest bounty of anyone else on the frontier that they call it. It's the space that's been unexplored. It's called the frontier. And what it does is it builds him up as this legend of like he's everyone's heard he robbed an entire planet, or he sparked an uprising on this corporate planet. Like he's taken down entire fleets single-handedly. There's just all of this hearsay of who this man is. And not only that, but it also builds up the bounty hunter that's following him, called the Angel, which is once anyone learned that the Angel is hunting him down, they're like, all right, we don't have any reason to ever find him because the Angel will get him. So that was a huge inspiration to me, was this idea of these larger than life figures, being able to meet them also, like being able to find them. Which will probably come up later down the series more. But
really cool.
It's a great book, and I found it on Audible because I was just listening to it, and I was like, this is an incredibly well written, not just sci-fi but Western. It's a great story. And I like Google it. There's like no fan stuff. The only thing on it is that this Wikipedia page, you can do one scroll and you hit the bottom of it. And it has some people from Pathfinder 1E made a module based off of it. So I was like, that's a fun little coincidence.
Nice.
And there's a tabletop game being made by it, but that was reported like a few years ago. So who knows what's happening with that. But if you like space westerns, Santiago is a great book. And then Trigun was my other huge inspiration. So what I was saying was it's funny that there's the obvious Cowboy Bebop because it's like my favorite show of all time. So anything I do is gonna have that influence on it. But I saw way more of the other stuff in there. People were like, "Oh, it's Cowboy Bebop," and I was like, "Oh, oops." I guess so. Yeah.
Oops, all Bebop.
Oops, it's all Bebop.
We get a dog suddenly.
Yeah. Genius dog.
We name it Dry in like reference to the fact that Ruby named their dog Zwei in reference to Ein. Just reference on top of reference.
It's just
So many
snake
German
eating its
numbers.
Just references all the way down.
The reference
It was Cowboy Bebop, always was.
Always has been.
Always has been.
my god.
I've never I've never gone very deep into sci-fi. I like, a lot of the very popular ones, your Wars and Treks of the space varieties.
Maybe even the Star, perhaps.
The
God.
the sci-fi show that I've watched the most of is Futurama. I mean,
Same.
that I'll watch over and over forever. I tend to like sci-fi that's a little bit more like present based. So like one of my favorite books was Cryptonomicon. The more kind of like techie in the present day or slightly past. So I haven't I've started watching Cowboy Bebop. I watched the first 2 episodes of Firefly a while back. And I'm sure I'm forgetting some other ones I liked, but iRobot, things like that.
Have you watched Her?
No.
Okay, 'cause you might like that because that's very much like it's the future, but it's like kind of present technology. It's like it seems like a more natural evolution of technology.
That's
than,
the Siri-ish one, right?
yeah, where it's
Joaquin Phoenix
Yes.
falls in love.
with Alexa.
That's actually further back
yeah.
along the ones I don't think I would like.
Never mind. That was on me.
I mean, like I'm a software engineer, so like the ones I get
That's
into,
gonna
like,
be a weird watch for you,
the
dude.
ones I get into like people falling in love with the technology can just kind of stress me out. I'm like,
Sorry, Chip.
You don't want that energy to be weird when you come into work the next
Yeah.
day.
I feel that like in general that seems like a concept like the variety of things I would like, but especially when it gets into like the AI and like the software-y things like that, that's when I'm like, I feel weird.
Oh, that's too funny.
If that happened in real life, that's like an HR call for you.
So we
nightmare.
noticed something in the code.
It's like the software is your baby, is your like daughter, and you're just like, I don't want people creeping on her. Stop it.
I think for me, as far as inspirations, I mean, obviously Star Wars, that's huge. And you can see this a lot for Aster, but I've always really liked in Star Wars the concept of science fantasy. And I think that Starfinder perfectly encapsulates that with being, the gap taking place. So all of Pathfinder in its lore and history and backstories happened, which is a, more or less what you would idealize as a fantasy world. And then Starfinder being a natural progression of that. You can take me to anywhere in Star Wars. I don't really care about the politics. I don't really care about even like the rebels versus the Empire, but Jedi versus Sith, good versus evil, those fantasy elements before midichlorians were introduced, which what if we made Star Wars but explained the science? They explained the science fiction and explained the science fantasy, but just this kind of feelings is because the Force is basically magic. Let's be real. That's like science magic.
Science fiction.
It pretty much. But just these feelings, like any of the scenes in Empire Strikes Back where Luke is training on Dagobah with Yoda, and I always draw back to Yoda lifting the X-wing when Luke failed, and Luke is like, I can't believe you did that, or I can't believe it. And Yoda's like, and that's why you fail. And it's just like, oh, Yoda, banger, banger line. But that definitely influenced a lot of reasons why I wanted to play a Solarian, because Solarian is, mystical warrior wielding the powers of the space and elements around them. But yeah, that's why Pathfinder is such a, besides it being kind of like you guys said, a smoother transition from D&D 5th edition into something a bit more detailed and with a lot more going on, but then just like all the fantasy stuff, what you think of fantasy, it happened. And now it's that real. and sci-fi and science fantasy. So it's really, really cool.
Yeah, I loved that because when we started making the show, when I was writing for it, I didn't know anything about Starfinder lore. So when I looked into it, it was like, oh yeah, everything in Pathfinder exists too. So I got overwhelmed because I was like, I have to learn Pathfinder and Starfinder lore. So that was partially why we've mentioned it a couple times in the show. There's a second gap that happens for us. So that was kind of my way of being like, okay, this is how we're going to circumvent some of the lore. So I don't have to learn it all. But since then, I've learned a lot of lore, and the Starfinder lore, the current lore in Starfinder is super, super cool. And does a great job of blending. It's an evolution of the science of the Pathfinder world, blending with properly blending with the magic. So it's a good balance of not light magic world, but healthy magic world. There's a healthy amount in there.
Yeah.
So your favorite sci-fi stuff? I
don't consume a ton of sci-fi. I've also divulged in the Treks and the Wars and the stuff, like, and it's fine. Like I'm not super into it. My favorite sci-fi would probably have to be just because I finally read it, and I know everybody else has read this in like middle school, but I finally read it like this year, which was Ender's Game, and I really loved that book because it reminded me a lot of my actual favorite book, which is book series, which is the Mysterious Benedict Society. If anybody ever read that, it's a kid's series, but just like.
Did they make a show out of the Mysterious?
They did, but I didn't like it. But that's just because it's not enough like the book for me. Like, I used to read that book, like just on a loop. I would finish it and I would flip right back to page 1 and stuff. Like I was so attached to that, and it struck up some of that stuff with me where it's like these kids, these like innocent characters put in these extreme situations, and then really focusing on the thought processes behind that and how they navigate it and what they're thinking. Obviously Ender's Game is far darker than Mysterious Benedict Society is, but it was just so fascinating, and that's kind of some of the energy that I kind of wanted to take into Chip, where it's a very innocent character. He is entirely fresh, like we switch him on episode 1, and then he's flung into this pretty and sometimes pretty serious situation. That's like one of my favorite moments of the series was after Astra showed up in the finale and talking with Chip and Clementine, and kind of seeing that where it's like it just some things they don't process this, like it doesn't make sense yet kind of thing.
Yeah. Speaking of that moment, I remember mentioning it to you after the stream, but that like maybe I just don't understand yet. Like that hit me really hard because I'm autistic, and there are times where if it's a stressful situation or things like that, I don't always know how to help. You know, I try my best to comfort and stuff, and there are some times where like if Gary's been in distress, sometimes he'll express it in a way like saying a certain phrase or something like that I can't quite understand what he means by that. And so there have been times where I'm like, I'm sorry, I don't understand. And so like in that moment, I felt it like twofold, because I felt it on the autistic side of things as myself, and then also as Clementine being like, yeah, maybe it's better to not understand it. Like, oh my gosh, it was a really good moment. Like I live for the drama in series and stories.
Right.
That's one of my favorite things about tabletop RPGs is creating the like dramatic parts of the story. Because I always like to imagine it as a TV show that I'm watching kind of thing. And so like seeing moments like that happen just makes me so happy. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that tabletop RPGs can be so rewarding because we can have moments where it is so, more darker and dramatic and brooding. And then previously we've had moments where a robot and a big beefy guy is trying to do a flip and join
Season 2, it's gonna happen.
A sports team.
I'm rebuilding. I'm putting all of my stats into
acrobatics maxed.
When they come into season 2, it's like a couple of years have passed, and you're like an Olympic like.
Yes.
That was so funny too,
flipping.
just with the flips and stuff, and failing trying to keep up with acrobatics, because it's like I can literally fly. I don't want to say it now, but it's like I have the gift of flight, but I am just failing.
But do you have the gift of
no, no, can't flip.
Yeah, that there. I'm glad a lot of the dramatic moments landed for that, because that's also as a stressor as the one writing it. I was stressed. I was like, man, I hope these are actually good. Like I had faith in you guys for delivering it, but I was just like, man, I hope these were actually good. And they turned out well.
They hit hard.
Specifically the Astra moment at the end with the black hole. On our break, I had pulled again our computer's guy to the side, just put in the back, and I was like, "Was that good?" I was like, "That was good, right?" I was so scared.
So good.
It was good.
Like I remember just that strong feeling of horror, like imagining in the moment of just all the screams that we couldn't hear because of space and because we're in a ship, but just how it must sound to those on their ship. Like, oh my God.
And that's a harrowing moment, but also a grounding moment too, of, you know, like we can have goofs and we've had combat where things aren't as serious, but then we had a dire moment where, like, yeah, we lost that ship combat. We were seconds away from being boarded by a bunch of police officers, and then that happened. I think that's kind of the hallmark of any really good story, is that there are the joyous, light, comical moments, and then there are the more serious moments. And I think we've had definitely a good balance throughout the season. I think all of us, we're all friends and we like playing the game together. So when Kevin says, do a flip, it's like, yeah, we're all gonna love that. But then
His wish is our command.
but then as we're all actors, players, improvers, all this kind of mesh of things, having the moment, it's like, yeah, we're like you said, good people doing bad things. And especially when we met, what was the gentleman's name at the very last episode?
Oh, Gerard?
Gerard, yeah.
Gerard Tarkov.
That's like, oh, you guys think you're the it crew? You got a long way to go.
Yeah, that was my goal for the finale was I needed you guys, because until that point you guys were winning pretty consistently. So I needed you guys to take major loss, and I needed to reestablish how intense things actually are. It's not just, we had a lot of fun goofing around with some clones and playing a little bit of slots, but it's like, hey, no, things are actually pretty dire over here, and it's not as fun as it always is.
That is one of the things I was telling you last week, is that I am like very glad we lost the combat, because I feel like, if we had won, it would have been a lot of fun. We could celebrate, but I think it really did give us that emotional feeling that really kind of set us for the improvement in following seasons, as well as the kind of just putting us in that mindset for seriousness and seeing Astra come in. And I think it worked out very well, and gave us a lot more depth than if we had just won and everything was okay.
Yeah, that I'm glad it worked out well also for the Astra stuff too, because I wanted to get those seeds planted pretty early, because when we were creating, or when Gary was creating Astra, he gave me some very basic notes of just like where he was at before he met you guys, and where what his relationship was with his sister at that time and place. So I was like, cool, sounds like I can do some fun little things with with our good friend Astra. And yeah, the Calistar scene specifically was I was very excited for that, because introducing someone who can just rip open a black hole seemingly at will is pretty high stakes. But I was also excited to give Valia a really fun moment like that of just establishing you being able to just get it out of Dodge as fast as you need.
Yeah.
That entire sequence
oh my
is
gosh,
probably one of my personal highlights of the entire season. Just being only Valia was the only PC involved in that sequence, but it was still just like, I felt like I was at home at an audience member watching it, and I was just like, oh my gosh, like this is intense, going from this is my last mission one last time to escaping a almost instantaneously appearing black hole. Like I could feel the tension in the confrontation, the tension and suspense of trying to escape. I was like, wow, this is masterfully done storytelling. So kudos to you.
That really
Thank you.
felt like the opening for like a sci-fi movie where you come into like that intense scene and it's just like everything falls apart, and then you flash forward a few years later and the actual movie starts. Like it was very cinematic and a lot of fun.
Like
you.
experiencing that was like amazing because I was just sitting here like,
And Riley were just like staring at each other like, I'm here.
You two were my point of like, is this good? Because you were both just Sully was doing like the entire time, and Riley had her mouth open.
yeah, I was just like,
I was like, okay, good.
and like the notes that I was writing in the little notebook got really funny in hindsight because like I remember when Astra showed up in that flashback and I was like, Astra question mark, Astra question mark exclamation point, and then a black hole.
Yeah, that entire time, once the early descriptions get, I was just over here like, I think I know what's going on.
Wait a second. I know that suit of armor.
Oh goodness.
I didn't know that backstory until we actually had the scene in the closing. Even then, technically, I still don't know. So.
Yeah, Volley didn't even see Astra.
My one like bad perception roll.
Yeah. That's, you gotta have some failures, man. We were just saying.
The dramatic tension, like, of just if you had seen Astra, what would have happened? Like, oh my God, the PTSD you would have been experiencing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of that too, because then Pepper asked Chip if anybody was there, and I just happened to not see it.
Yeah.
But if I had, then like that whole can of worms would have gotten open.
Yeah, you guys were dangerously close to a lot of other things happening.
Yeah, we're like just a couple of checks away from like everybody. Only certain people have only partial information. Nobody has the full thing yet.
It works because then you guys work as a unit together. You have the whole picture then as a team.
So exciting.
Yeah.
One thing I was wanting to ask, like with the first season over and eventually moving into the second season, I've already been thinking about like how my costume is going to change from what it was in season 1 to season 2, because, you know, the story's taking a turn with us being employed by Gerard, and I'm thinking of like how that affects Clementine and like how to reflect that in her costume. Have you guys been thinking about costume changes?
Yeah, especially just because I was a little lazy this season. I went like I went through like, you know, thrift stores and was just trying to find some other things, but I didn't have much luck. It's hard to find things in my size as it is, but especially something that would kind of fit the character I was going for was hard. So now with the time we have between the second season, I can devote more time to actually finding like a better costume anyway.
You said lazy. I bought that jean jacket the day before the episode, and it don't fit. It's a size too small.
I mean, basically just put on a black shirt.
I'm gonna get even more light up things.
She's gonna come in and glow bracelets up both arms.
Just LED strips all the way across, like ends.
Like the Michelin Man with like a. Oh my gosh.
Just like those rave hair things.
That's my level 20 costume.
He's gonna have to give like the biggest lead up to his big signature move as he turns on.
Like, hold on.
Spend 3 minutes snapping glow sticks.
I have a roadside flare.
You have a flare gun in studio. He's taking flight.
Oh my gosh. That's so funny. I thought about changing Chip's costume a little bit, but there's not really much to change about. I never wanted to do too much with Chip's costume because, like, I didn't want to wear something huge on my head. Like, I have something on my head, but I didn't want to have like a box thing. I didn't want it to be distracting.
He's just doing an awesome O from South Park. Just a cardboard box.
Yeah. I've always thought about changing how I do my hair for it. That's really about the only thing that I could change because I've got that like little headpiece thing that I made like not even an hour was it finished before the first episode.
We really scrapped together a lot of the content.
That thing is made of
Peek behind the screen here.
Yeah. That thing is made of like just cardstock and like those, what do you call them? Brats?
Rats?
The dolls?
The brass. Oh gosh, you stick it in, and then they got the little two tails, and you bend.
Oh
them
yeah, those things. Yeah.
Rats.
brass tacks.
Brass tacks?
Like the little Pathfinder things.
The expression?
Those are on it. Okay,
Yes.
it's that paper and like a ton of hot glue.
If you're not making a costume out of a ton of hot glue, are you really
It's
making a
mostly
costume?
hot glue, and then just like painted over everything else. Yep.
Brass tacks. Final answer.
And for like the last episode, I did like briefly like try to just like go through Amazon or something. I was like, oh, maybe I'll get some like driving gloves just for funsies. But again, I was just like,
I would love that if like for any starship combat you just go like
get that
like, on.
like steampunk like goggles.
We get more hot rod cars.
You're super subtle with your costume the entire time until you're behind it. You've got like the scarf on and like a helmet.
Goggles.
I'm gonna make.
Cape Canaveral and got a full spacesuit.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I'm gonna make a bow tie out of aluminum foil.
Kevin got an actual jumpsuit from an actual mechanic shop. Like,
Yeah,
like, he
yeah.
just like
Yeah.
found that. Like that's an actual like it says like Joe's Auto Body or something
Yeah.
on it.
Oh my god.
I love the little like rat ears that are attached
Yes.
to his goggles. Like I love it so much.
good. My costume, it's not much. I might just try to get like a logo of one of the companies on a t-shirt and maybe a patch. Maybe I'll be a patch guy, you know?
That's your GM fit.
yeah, the GM.
We're all getting denim vests, and
Can we get matching vest for the cast and crew, please?
Cast and crew.
God.
No, I'm not letting that go. I heard it.
slots and craps and crew.
Oh my
Craft
gosh.
and Crast and crew.
That's our new warm up. I really want to design the logos for the 3 mega corporations.
Yeah, they technically have logos, but we can redesign them for sure because they.
I want little ads, like to
Yeah, I wanted it's just we ran out of time to do it, but I wanted to for like the 10-minute break. I wanted there to have little ad breaks in there for the corporations.
We need to record Kevin doing the slots and craps commercial.
I would love to do that. Actually, that'd be really good.
I'm down to make any videos we need.
Like have like kind of spliced together 2 recordings, one where he's Widget, one where he's Gizmo.
Oh my god.
Cool. We're at about an hour here, so if there's any last words before we wrap it up.
I'm gonna keep going. Someone has more questions.
we can keep going. It's fine. Oh wait, actually, before there was one. The other big reveal of the finale was Chip has magic in him.
Yes.
I'm excited about that.
Which was a huge shock to me because Corey has said up and down the wall on numerous occasions that there's little to no magic in his universe and that he doesn't like to do a ton of magic.
Yeah.
So then for you to turn around and say that I am a magic man was shocking for me. I would have never expected that coming for Chip's reveal.
Because I have I say this with the intent of it probably changing because that's the nature of how these go. I have an idea for Chip like that I want to go through, and it involves a little bit of magic. There's the next. I'll say this also for our next season. By the way, we have a next season. We are going to come back for season 2.
We will be back.
We will be back. The next season will probably mostly be on the Absalom ring. Because this season it was mostly us getting to know the characters, getting to know how the system works, introducing that all. The next time I want it to be a little more lore heavy to kind of explore the world a bit.
the lore of the Lories.
The lore of the Lories.
Lori.
I want to explore your characters' relationships with the world and stuff like that. Get more in depth with that.
I definitely want to develop more of the things around Clementine because I didn't like conjure up a whole lot of detail behind the scenes for this season, but I definitely want to workshop with you a lot more stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I'll be definitely workshopping with everyone on what they do on the Absalom Ring. If they're not doing the Lori job, what are they doing on the Absalom Ring itself? You know. But yeah, so next season will definitely be more on the ring, learning the lore, because we only mentioned it like a couple of times, but like there's not magic in this universe. It's the Absalom Ring is around the black hole that's in the center of the universe. It's kind of just been determined as the center of the universe. But that black hole, it is. That black hole is the thing sucking in all of the magic. So the closer you are to that black hole, the less magic there is. Further out, you could run into like Wizard World, World of Wizards.
The wizard in the sun.
Yes.
It's a big world.
Don't be careful. You're gonna anger her. Okay, we don't want to do that.
We don't want to
But yeah, so we'll be exploring more of that. So it's very weird that Chip has magic in him at all, and it's still there.
So glad you have magic in you, because now anytime me rolling for a mysticism check is just me begging Corey, can I please do something cool with this really high modifier I have?
There may have some magic.
May I please have some magic?
Just a crumb of
May I
magic.
please have some magic in my TTRPG?
No, absolutely not.
Don't worry, my rolls take care of that for you.
Before we started, Gary picked up a dice and just rolled it for fun and got a nat 1.
I didn't roll any more dice after that.
It's for nothing. It was just like, oh, it's just new dice. Let's try them out. Nat 1.
Oh gosh, Mance is cursed.
I don't
So
even
sorry,
know.
Fred.
I don't even know. I have to do more research into it. But for the Solarian stuff, as rules is written, I don't even know if that's technically considered magic, because there's like spell-like abilities. I read there's like supernatural abilities.
Yeah, because like you can get into the other planes and stuff. So like the drift technically isn't magic. It's just like other planar kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But no, go ahead.
I mean, that's how I kind of like to imagine it for like my cloaking ability as well. Was kind of like you kind of imagine more like a racial, like not magic, but just like, you know, if a chameleon can blend into the background, it's just kind of like accepted as like just a thing that the other races can do. Not necessarily magical. It's just not what we would imagine.
Yeah.
Talking about the drift actually makes me wonder, because that facet of the drift where depending on how big of a jump it is, that affects how much is taken out of the material plane.
Yep.
And so I'm like, are there just communities of people like trying to survive in the drift because that they were snatched up by it?
So it's how it works. It's not just like the material plane. It's like it can rip it out of other planes. Like there's a part of it was ripped from hell itself, and so there's like you can do combat in the drift, and there's like demons that are just actively flying around in there. But the thing is that it's the size of space itself. So the odds of you ever running into something are so slim to none. But people do get sucked in there. Buildings and chunks of planets, continents even could get sucked into the drift. So there's some modules, because right now the current actual play for Starfinder is the Drift Crisis, which is the drift is broken. Nobody knows what's going on in there. So part of it is you go into the drift, and there's a society in the drift you have to find and kind of figure out like, hey, what's going on in here?
You gotta find the Drift King.
You gotta find the Drift King.
Whoa.
And then you gotta race him.
Yes.
Because it's part of it's also because in Starfinder lore, it's three AI gods merged together to become triune, which we mentioned in the show at one point. I think, I don't remember if it was Royce or someone else had a triune emblem on them.
Royce said
like-
that he had,
Yes, that was it.
to Tribune is what he said. I think.
Yes.
I think Jeremiah, one of the guys that jumped us in episode 1.
You
Yes.
did ask,
yeah.
does one of these guys have a religion?
The like pineapple dude.
Pineapple Man. So sidebar about them. That's very fun. They have a trait. It's not even an ability, where it's because they are literally fruit. They are fruit men. And it's if a creature does a biting attack on them, they do double damage to them because they're so tasty. It's like you go in and you want to just keep going. So it's like you're taking a bite of an apple. It's like that. It's very funny.
Terrible.
Remember you making the comment in episode 1 after Aster like sliced through one, you're like, it just smells like grilled pineapple. Like,
Yeah.
Because that is like literally just they are fruit.
Oh my gosh.
But so the lore of it, it could be Tribune, it could be Triune. I forget the name, whatever. It's
the try guy.
the Try Guys. It's the Try Guys merged together to form it. I've been watching Try Guys recently too, so this is fun. It becomes Miles. We'll just say Triune for the explanation. Triune formed. The gap happened. Nobody can remember anything for like 2 years. Triune revealed themselves, explained that they were those three gods merged into one, gave every creature ever the knowledge on how to build a starship. And then a year later, after everyone built starships, revealed the drift. So part of this current module is you're trying to figure out why the drift is missing. You're going to that society and you're trying to figure out what's going on with the Triune and stuff. So it's super, super cool. And very fun. The actual play, the full actual plays of, or not actual play, I forget the word. They call them APs, whatever. Like the full like books of that stuff are very fun. There's one where you're like on a cruise liner, just working as security, and then like space demon pirates attack, and you gotta like figure out why and what's going on with that.
That's wild.
Yeah, I'm telling you the ones that I'm not going to do because I can't figure out how to force those into another season of it.
How
Okay.
how would we be on a cruise ship?
Yeah, there's a couple that I'm gonna try to do for season 2. Also, somebody asked when is season 2. We don't have a date yet, but it's gonna be happening.
You will be
It's
the
just
first to know.
Yes.
Personally.
Just like robots, don't have a date yet. It's okay.
It's okay, man. You'll get there. Season 2 is I was trying to find Marcus a date. Yeah, so that season 2 will be mostly on the Absalom Ring and exploring a bit more of the world itself and what is known and what's not known and where you guys stand in it. And I've been trying to make myself not think about it for a while because I need to just take a break and I can't not think about it. So I have part of it planned. I've got an idea for season 2 already.
Secrets Between the Stars 2. If you like it, then you better put a ring on it.
That's good. That's a really good tagline. Cool. All right. So anything else anyone else want to cover before we wrap it up here?
Join our Discord if you have more questions.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
We have a Discord. Please join. We've been very active and having fun in there. We have go ahead.
I think just a thank you to everybody, the people in the Discord and the people who watch the show. This show has had like such a great reception.
Yes.
And that means so much to us because this is a universe that we love, that Corey has worked very hard on, and characters that we love that we've worked really hard on. So to see everybody getting like enjoying that and participating just absolutely means the world to us. Like it's unmatched.
Yeah. The reception feels great. Like it is. I'm so grateful that everyone has been getting a positive reception.
Big thanks.
Yes,
Big
a
thanks.
huge thanks.
Yeah, so I guess we'll wrap it up here. Thank you so much for watching season 1. Don't forget next week we are starting a new series on here, Strange Aeons. AJ Squiddish, however you know him, he spent forever making this a first edition to second edition, and it starts next week. I don't think he's announced the cast yet though, so I won't say who's on it, but yeah, he's put a ton of work into it, and I'm super excited to see it. So next week, 3 p.m. on Saturdays, All right. I guess that's it. Thank you so much for watching season 1. If you like the show, like we said, Discord, we have a Twitter, Instagram, UGT show. We have a Patreon. If you want to support us directly, that'd be super appreciated. Yeah. All right. Well, we'll see you guys around. See ya.